Welcome back, everybody, to the OK Grognard Show. Today is Monday, May 23rd, 2022, 10 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Sarah has pointed out that I'm actually starting on time this wonderful Monday, and it's actually true. I did have a little audio glitch, had to restart, but it's still, well, it says 10:01 on my clock, so I'm right there. Anyway, here we are, and we're going to continue talking about the sections of the Dungeon Master's Guide on magic items. This is part 3. In part 1, we went over the potions table, and in part 2, we went over the scrolls table. And somebody mentioned, maybe we should be interspersing the descriptive parts so that we're not getting too far afield before we go back and get descriptions from each of those. So we're going to jump on the potions description section. Once again, I look a little washed out. We're not using the green screen here as I readjust everything in the studio. That is where I record. So, we'll just leave it at that. In any event, let's jump on in over here. I've got that section up and ready to go. It is the potion section, descriptive section, so we'll start there. Potions are typically found in ceramic, crystal, glass, or metal flasks in enough quantity to provide one person with one complete dose, so as to be able to achieve the effects which are given hereafter for each type of potion. Potion containers can be other than as described at your option. As a general rule, they should bear no identifying marks so that the players must sample from each container in order to determine the nature of the liquid. However, even a small taste should suffice to identify a potion in some way, even if just a slight urge. As Dungeon Master, you should add a few different sorts of potions, both helpful and harmful, of such nature as to cause difficulties in identification. In addition, the same type of potion, when derived from different sources, might smell, taste, or look differently. Okay, all of that being said, and as fun as that might be in some cases for players and dungeon masters to wrangle over, oh, is this a flask of poison or a potion of healing? And if I take the former, I'm a dead person, and if I take the latter, thank God it'll bring me back from the brink of death. Okay, yeah, it might be fun early on, and the longer you do it and stuff. But let's look at a few things here. Number one, no identifying marks. If somebody has personally more than one potion on, they're going to have some way of telling them apart. Now, maybe that is just to put a little mark on one that is poison and leave all the healing ones unmarked, or maybe that one's in metal and all the rest are in ceramic. You wouldn't want poison necessarily to break. Let's face it, if you're adventuring, you got all sorts of little cuts and scrapes and bruises and stuff. And if a poison flask made of ceramic or glass were to break, or even if one of those were to break in a pouch and the glass were to cut you and the poison get in, you could just die from carrying your own thing and falling down on the floor, which has got to happen more than a few times over the course of adventuring. Whether it's climbing and falling over something, is it tripping and stumbling? You're carrying a bunch of weight often. It's just ridiculous to say that if you get a couple of potions off of a person, or even from one person's stash, that they wouldn't have some way of knowing personally which is which. Now, maybe they can just look at them and know. Maybe they're not worried about their memory letting them forget and in the heat of a moment accidentally quaffing poison rather than a potion of healing. But there are cases where I would say that a smart adventurer that died in a dungeon even, maybe that doesn't make them that smart, but even going in the first place, would have some sort of thing, a skull and crossbones on poison, maybe a heart on healing, like we see in so many other game types. Um, in any event, I think it's fair to say that we should be seeing a little more identifying marks on some of these things, and that would not be necessarily a bad thing or ruin an adventure. Maybe there are cases where, oh no, they're six identical metal flasks. None of them seem to have any markings on them, and maybe two of them are detrimental, and you know, four of them are good for you. Who knows? But make that its own thing. Don't make that the constant thing unless you want to spend a lot of time with people. You take a taste, you take a taste, and then you're the dwarf. You got the great saving throws. Well, you taste. All right, I'll taste. Oh, do I feel like I'm jumping up and down? Does it feel good? Does it heal? Does it, all of these other things that people will try and spend a good amount of table time doing every single time potions become available. So, your call. Anyway, it continues. Unless otherwise stated, the effects of a potion will last for 4 complete turns, that's 10 minutes per turn, plus 1 to 4 additional turns, a d4, 10 minutes each of those. If half a potion is quaffed, the effects will last one half as long for the same in some cases. Potions take effect 2 to 5 segments after they are imbibed. So there's a few moments, segments where maybe there's a chance to reverse something or you're waiting for something to happen. So don't expect it to happen immediately. While potions can be compounded by magic user alchemist teams at a relatively low cost, they must have an actual potion to obtain the formula for each type. This kind of goes against the idea that they don't necessarily look the same or smell the same or taste the same for potions of the same type if there's a formula. So that's another thing from above that I don't necessarily agree with. And I also think that once something has been discovered, oh, this is a healing potion, I've just tasted it. Other ones should look like it, and you should be able to tell in most cases. I think it's fair to say that people can make fake ones, put a little food dye into some poison to make it look like a healing potion, something like that, so that not until they taste it do they know that it's not a healing potion. Anyway, that's my own little picayune problems with what was described above. Well, they can be compounded potion to obtain the formula for each type. Furthermore, the ingredients are always rare and or hard to come by. This aspect of potions, as well as the formulation of new ones by players, is detailed in the appropriate subsection of the magical research rules. We'll get into that sometime too. Let's look at each of the potions descriptively. Animal control. This potion enables the imbiber to empathize with the control the emotions of animals of one type, i.e., cats, dogs, horses, etc. The number of animals so controlled depends upon the size, 5 to 20 animals of the size of giant rats, so small dogs. Maybe not quite small dogs, maybe smaller. Chihuahua size, maybe a little smaller. Giant rats have got to be that big, right? Or they're not really worth throwing at your players. 3 to 12 animals of about man size. 1 to 4 animals of about half a ton or more in weight. I think they're getting into horses there. And it's random, 1 to 4. The sort of animal which can be controlled depends on the particular potion as indicated by the die roll. It doesn't actually say it's random, so it is possible that as a DM you determine that, okay, if there's only one horse, then it does one horse. If there are 4 horses here, this can handle 4 horses. So a team of horses that are taking a large coach can all be controlled at the same time rather than keep them calm, keep them from, breaking into a gallop when you want them to go slow, if they're scared, whatever. The sort of animal which can be controlled depends upon the particular potion, as indicated by a die roll. That's a d20. And here is the table for that. 1 to 4, mammal or marsupial. 5 to 8, avian, birds and such. Reptiles and amphibians are 9 to 12, 13 to 15, fish. Mammal, marsupial, avian, so any of those on a 16 or 17, and 18 or 19 gets you reptile, amphibian, or fish, any of those. And 20, it'll control just any of the above. Animals with intelligence of 5, low intelligence, or better are entitled to a saving throw versus magic. Control is limited to emotions or drives unless some form of communication is possible. Note that many monsters cannot be controlled by the use of this potion, nor can humans, demi-humans, or humanoids. So keep that in mind. It is not going to do a lot. Hey George, thanks for joining us. Sarah's here and some others. Um, I just watched a YouTube video on the origins of griffins, and they were very much pointing out that griffins are not, their origin story is not something that is known. So it is assumed, therefore, that uh, ancients who spoke of griffins just thought of them as animals, didn't think of them as monsters necessarily. I mean, any more than you would think of a lion or a very large eagle as a monster. It's a combination of both. So you'll have to make a call as a DM if you want to include certain monsters uh, as animals. Does a gelatinous cube count as an animal? I think more a monster in that case for sure. But beholder, monster, yeah, probably. What about displacer beast? It's basically got a special ability above and beyond just attacking like a griffin would. So, but it looks kind of more animalistic with the extra tentacle arm type thingies sticking out of it. Anyway, there are some calls to make. I generally would stick with anything that is straight up an animal or a giant sized version of that animal. So a giant eagle, whatever, would still count as an animal. Monsters, I'd throw griffin into the monster category myself. Clairaudience. This potion empowers the creature drinking it to hear as the third level magic user spell of the same name. It can be used, however, only to clairaudit unknown areas within 3 inches, 30 feet. It's unknowns only in 30 feet. So the spell dictates some distance if you know what's going on in the area. Maybe you have a map, maybe you've been in the area before. Its effects last for 2 turns only, so 20 minutes of listening in. Clairvoyance, the potion empowers the individual to see as the third level magic user spell, clairvoyance. It differs from the spell in that unknown areas up to 30 feet, again, same, but the effects last for only 1 turn. 10 minutes of viewing. Climbing. Imbibing this potion enables the individual to climb as a thief up or down vertical surfaces with only a base 1% chance of slipping and falling. Check at the halfway point. D percentage. So that's something too. We used to check every 10 feet, and then somebody mentioned that that seems excessive. The halfway point, yeah, or if the surface changes. So if something goes from a really rough surface to a much slicker surface, I think making that adjustment warrants an additional check at that point. Anyway, this says check at the halfway point, D percentage, 0.1 equals fall. So this is when you're using the climbing potion. A climbing potion is effective for 1 turn. That's 10 minutes plus 5 to 20 rounds. Those are 1 minute each, so 5 to 20 additional minutes For every 1,000 gold piece weight equivalent carried by the character, there is an additional 1%. Now, this is assuming they can carry this much already. You can't suddenly carry a lot more weight because you're using a climbing potion. Equivalent of character carried by the character, there is an additional 1% added to the chance of slipping if the climber wears armor. There are the following additions to slipping, falling chance, and this is because of the restricted movement that armor provides. Studded leather, an additional 1%. Ring mail, 2%. Scale mail, 4%. Chain mail, 7%. Banded or splinted armor, 8%. Plate mail, 10%. Magic armor of any type is only 1% additional to the original 1% above. Delusion. This potion affects the mind of the character so that he or she believes the liquid is some other potion. Healing, for example, is a good choice. Damage is restored by drinking it, and only death or rest after an adventure will reveal that the potion only caused the imbiber to believe that he or she was aided. If several individuals taste this potion, it is still 90% probable that they will all agree it is the same potion or whatever type the DM announces or hints at. I'm I'm of a belief. Let's see. Oh, George says no. So no armor equals no check at all. Auto success. Nope. There's still the base 1% chance, and then the additional additional for the weight, and then armor is on top of that as well. So you're carrying 2,000 GP weight. That's a couple hundred pounds, right? And you have a base 1%, that's 3%. Ring mail adds 2%, that's 5%. No armor, it's just the 3%. Good question, George. Thank you. The delusion, I'm of a mind with the delusion potions that I think delusion is something that is in the mind of the beholder, so to speak. So I'm of a mind that if somebody is hoping it's one thing or another, they're more likely to believe that. So if they're tasting something and they're in need of healing, let it be a healing potion. If they are near a chasm they have to cross and they wished it was flying, let them taste it and think it's flying and then give it a try. That would be so fun if they decide to just do it without testing it while they're above, while they're still on solid ground. Hey, you know, that's what delusion's all about, right? So make up your mind how to do that. But I'm a fan of giving them what they think they want, so to speak. Diminution. This when this potion is quaffed, the individual and all he or she carries and wears will diminish in size to as small as 5% of normal size. If half the contents are swallowed, the person shrinks to 50% of normal size. The effect of this potion will last 6 turns, that's 60 minutes or 1 hour, plus 2 to 5 turns, 1d4 plus 1 additional 10-minute increments. So, the idea there is that you could share something if you both needed to crawl through a doggy door or some such. So you could use this between two humans to make them both hobbit size, for instance, halfling size, I should say. No offense to anybody who owns the rights to blah blah blah. Anyway, dragon control. This potion enables the individual drinking it to cast what is in effect a charm monster spell upon any dragon within 6 inches, 60 feet. And again, I always do feet indoor or outdoor. I don't like doing the back and forth all the time. If you still use that convention, that's 60 yards outdoors. Anyway, the dragon is entitled to a saving throw versus magic, but it is made at -2 on the die. There are various sorts of dragon control potions. As shown below, roll a d20. The table states 1 to 2 white dragon, 3 to 4 black, 5 to 7 green, 8 to 9 blue, red only on a 10. 11 to 12 brass, 13 to 14 copper, only on a 15 bronze, 16 silver, 17 gold, 18 or 19 any evil dragon, which includes all those monochromatic ones, black, blue, green, red, and white. On a 20, any good dragon, double asterisk there, that is to say the brass, bronze, copper, gold, or silver, any of the metallic dragons. Control lasts from 5 to 20 rounds. That's minutes. 5d4 will be rolled, and you've got a very short time to say, hey, dragon, we're pals, right? Do me a favor. You're not going to be able to fly across the country using just one potion. ESP. The ESP potion. Now, these are tricky. Anything like charm person or getting into someone's brain, all of that stuff is tricky to use. We'll talk about that a bit. The ESP potion bestows bestows an ability which is the same as the second level magic user spell of the same name, except that its effects last 4 to 40 rounds, 5 to 40 rounds, 5 to 40 minutes. So, what do we know about that? You know what? I wasn't going to do this. The jumping back and forth can be a little problematic sometimes. But I think in the case of ESP, it's probably worthwhile to take a moment, and I probably should have set this up ahead of time, right? But that's the kind of guy I am. Magic user spell, did say third level, right? Let's go. All right. Oh, that doesn't do that. We're going to take a few moments to just jump over into the player's handbook and look at that actual spell. There's clairaudience and clairvoyance. We'll do that. We'll do... Oh, I should actually change this view real quick to make sure that we're getting the full view without it shifting on us. And flame arrow, fireball. All right. I'm in the wrong place. Let's check that out. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's only a second level spell. What am I thinking third for? Second level, ESP, here it is. All right, let's switch over. This is the player's handbook, not in the DMG, by the way, just to be sure. We're being clear about that. ESP is a divination spell, level 2. Its range is half an inch per level with a 90-inch max. That is 5 feet per level, up to 90 feet maximum, which would be an 18th level caster's maximum. Duration is 1 round per level. Area of effect is 1 creature per probe. Verbal, somatic, and material components. 2 segments is the casting time. There is no saving throw, which is a pretty serious thing that you can jump into someone's brain. Now, I should say there are going to be some people that will feel that this can trigger some players in ways that a dungeon master or a game master should be sensitive regarding. So keep that in mind. You know your players better than some outside person who says, shouldn't do any of this because it might trigger somebody. Well, you either know your players or you don't. If you don't think you know your players, proceed with caution. If you do know your players and you don't feel that's an issue, enjoy it. Have fun with it. It's not like there aren't a myriad of things that can trigger individuals, and there's absolutely a good reason to consider these things when you're running a game and you're playing with people, whether they're friends or people you don't even know all that well at conventions or game days. So proceed carefully. In any event, no saving throw, somebody digs into your brain. Ouch. Explanation, description. When an ESP spell, when an ESP spell is used, the caster is able to detect the surface thoughts of any creatures in range, except creatures with no mind as we know it, such as all of the undead. Um, maybe also things that just proceed on instinct, whether it's slimes or oozes and that sort of thing. I don't know that any of them are necessarily benign or malevolent, but there you go. The ESP is stopped by 2 or more feet of rock, 2 or more inches of any metal other than lead, or a thin sheet of lead foil. The magic user employing the spell is able to probe the surface thoughts of one creature per turn. So it's 1 round per level. If you're 10th level, that's a full turn. If you're 20th level, you get 2 turns, so you can switch from one to another, for instance. Um, I would say if you're 11th level, the first turn's all focused on one because it's one per turn here. It says, well, let's continue. And you can make that call anyway. It does say it's one creature per probe. Yeah, you know what? No. I'm confused here because one creature per turn. So does that mean it's a maximum of 1 turn? Let me read on. I'm not reading the whole thing, and I should read the whole thing before I make some kind of a knee-jerk reaction, right? The magic user employing the spell is able to probe the surface thoughts of one creature per turn, getting simple instinctual thoughts from low-order creatures. I guess slimes can be hungry, right? Probes can continue on the same creature from round to round. The caster can use the spell to help determine if some creature lurks behind a door, for example, but the ESP will not always reveal what sort of creature it is. The material component of the spell is a copper piece. All right, let's unpack this a little bit. Probes can continue on the same creature from round to round. That implies that each round can be an individual probe. Surface thoughts of one creature per turn. So provided you have more than 1 turn's worth of time on the spell, which would mean I need to be 11th level or higher to get a turn plus an additional round, 11 minutes. Yeah, those two things are perhaps conflicted. Probes can continue on the same creature from round to round implies that you can switch from round to round, but surface thoughts of one creature per turn seems to suggest that if you don't have more than a turn, you can't switch it from creature to creature. I would say that makes sense. One creature, period, unless you're 11th level or higher, up to 20th, at which point, if you're 21st, that's 21 rounds, 2 turns plus an additional round. Then for 1 extra minute, you can. Had the mic go out. So for at 21, you could switch it to one additional creature. It says one creature per probe in the area of effect, but I think that covers all our bases if we say Unless it's 11th level or higher, it's still only one creature. Can't switch it around. Plus, that makes it a little less onerous. Should you be able to one round, one round, one round, one round, one round, I can see how that'd be useful if you were checking a crowd to see if you can find a thief. Who's thinking about thieving? Who's thinking about thieving? Who's thinking about thieving? I can think of that example. In any event, I think we're on to something there. There may be some FAQ on that some other place, but I'm not aware of it currently. Well, listen, we are at the 30-minute mark. We will come back next week and we'll dive into extra healing and onward with this continuation. Let's see. Oh, I missed a few things in there. Instinctual stuff. If you get philosophical, Excel 809 continues. This is in regard to the ESP, would be hunger, sleep, thirst, procreation, absolutely, but also shelter. Good point. So if it's cold or if it's hot, all good points for instinctual thoughts, right? Sarah says one creature might be the same creature round to round, might not be the same creature round to round. So, yeah, if you do 10 rounds on one creature and then want to switch it on the 11th round to another creature, then it doesn't have to be the same from round to round. So it covers that if you say if it's not longer than 10 minutes, it can't be more than one. I don't know. That's my feeling on it. It's too dry, it's too wet back on ESP Instinctual Thoughts, so a lower order amphibian would give off a signal of shelter exposure. Makes sense if it's too dry or cold. Yep, good points, all of them. And I like the way you're thinking into it because certainly it can get a little tough on a dungeon master to play or portray um, a low order creature that only has instinctual thoughts. Because how elaborate do you get, right? Do they have a sense of humor? I don't know. That sounds like higher order thinking to me, but sometimes it's fun to inject those sort of things into your games. Giant frogs. Does a giant frog like to play leapfrog? Does it think of play, or is that resolved only in the minds of higher intelligent creatures, dolphins, for instance? In any event, I think we're going to pack it in for today and say that you should join us next week once again for the show. We'll continue from extra healing onward. We've been looking at the Dungeon Master Guide magic items section. We'll continue with it next week. The show streams live on Twitch each Monday at 10 a.m. Central and is then archived on YouTube. If you catch up with us on Twitch, please do follow the channel. And also, please do chime in on the stream chat while you're here. We appreciate everybody's input today and every day. If you catch up with us on YouTube, by all means, subscribe, ring the little bell so that you get updates anytime new videos are uploaded. Give us the thumbs up on ones you like and enjoy, and feel free to comment. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Tell us what we're doing right. Be respectful. We'd appreciate that. Want to thank our Patreon supporters. Links are provided in the show notes. Tom Tullis of Fat Dragon Games, Rick Hershey of Fat Goblin Games, Carlos Slicing of Castle Entertainment, Heath Farndon of the Antipodean D20, Dave O'Brien of Four Quacks Games, and as always, Shane Bradley, DM Extraordinaire. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Thank you, and bye-bye.